So in 2008, probably 2008, I decided to go into treatment for an eating disorder. So I went into an outpatient treatment. It was a lot of like I was diagnosed bulimic and anorexic, also with the like over-exerciser. So, for me, one of the hardest parts in the treatment was that I couldn't work out. And so that kind of, that started off my like road to recovery, was the eating disorder. So went into treatment for an eating disorder, left treatment from the eating disorder, like finished my treatment, did a lot of work on myself, but realized at that point that that I had a drug and alcohol addiction, because I wasn't binging and purging anymore. I wasn't restricting my food. I wasn't over-exercising. I was drinking and using drugs for my like way to cope. So I left the treatment center and spent probably like a month of just like drinking and drugging and everything, and finally was able to figure out that that was an issue for me. And October 25th, 2010, I was doing a lot of like therapy. So went in to see my therapist and was like, I can't drink anymore. And what started out for me was just like, I'm just gonna not do it for like 30 days. Had no intention of never doing it again, no intention of ever calling myself an alcoholic. But as I continued to, learn about myself and actually deal with feelings and actually like learn who I was outside of, drinking and using and eating disorder and this and that, I was able to see that the person that I was when I was drinking was not somebody that I wanted to be, and I was a completely different person than who I actually was. And so the more time I got clean and sober, the more time I got without drinking, the more I realized like that's not who I wanted to be. And so it just kind of like just continued to build and like, 30 days turned into 90, turned into a year, turned into 2 years. So that for me was probably one of the hardest things I've had to go through, and continues to help me like in CrossFit. So now the things the stuff I do on a daily basis, like that stuff's easy. Dealing with like my feelings and emotions, and when I had never done that before, and like figuring out who I was and who I wanted to be. Like I didn't necessarily have to be who I thought everyone else wanted me to be. That for me has like really helped with the community here. Now that I have, a good amount of clean time and I have the resources to be able to give back, it's been probably one of the most inspirational and empowering things that I've ever done, to be able to give back to the recovery community out here, or anyone in recovery, the recovery community in CrossFit in general. The amount of like outpour that I get from the CrossFit community when I share my story, the amount of people that send me messages saying like, I am in the same place, like you motivate me to continue to stay clean. Like that's the stuff that means so much more to me than being a games athlete. You know what I mean? Like, the CrossFit Games has allowed me a platform to share my story. I'm blessed to have been given that, platform. And now it's more for me. For me, it's more about like being able to use that and share what I have. And people aren't necessarily like inspired by the fact that that I can do, a workout in this amount of time, but to know that that I've gone through the same struggles as they have, and that we're all human, and the real life struggles that happen, that kind of stuff is the inspiring stuff. And so that's the kind of stuff that I love to be able to share, is like the real life stuff, like the true stories. So, yeah. When we were first starting to kind of play with the idea of starting a recovery program, we started out doing a once a month, last Sunday of the month class for people in recovery, and we promoted it to the local meetings, and from there the idea was that we wanted to hold a CrossFit class, and then after the class we go to a meeting, because for me, I wanted to be able to hear people's how CrossFit affected them, how they felt in the meeting after doing a CrossFit workout. So we started out with that. I think that if gyms are looking to do this kind of recovery program, it's super easy. You just have to find an hour and be willing to give your time for an hour, and word of mouth, basically from there. We've been blessed and lucky enough to have received a grant. So we received a grant from the local mental health department and the state. And so our grant has funded the program. So we offer once a week free CrossFit to anyone who has 48 hours clean and sober. One of our members also works at the local mental health department and is a peer mentor. So she has offered her time. She got her level 1. She's offering her time to coach on a daily basis. So we offer our Power Clean program on Fridays, but Monday through Thursday, we have a class every single day for people in recovery. So it's just, honestly, what started out with one day, once a month, has then changed to once a week, has then changed to 5 days a week. And the group it's been the most beneficial to is a local treatment center. So we reached out to the local treatment center, said hey, can we make one of your groups CrossFit? So one of their treatment groups is CrossFit. So they get treatment credit for coming and doing CrossFit. So yeah.